Okay, so this is gonna be a bit sideways from my usual content, but I'm honestly too concerned by everything going on not to say something. So, I've already been talking with my patrons about this, but with everything going on in the States lately, I've just been so frustrated. Not just angry at the headlines they're trying to break our morality with, but heartsick at the way cruelty has become policy. At how people are being put through suffering for the sake of someone else's power-hungry, ham-fisted way of moving cruelly and quickly to break things for their own gain. Just so no one has time to respond through the channels already pushed to the breaking point. And I know that it's that flavor of cruelty that doesn't care about the greater good, or permaculture's three core ethics: care for the earth, care for the people, and fair share. No, these folks are content to just burn it all to the ground if they can't be the orbiting factor of constant praise, fame, fortune, and glory, while everyone else suffers around them. I've lived it. I've also lived in the kind of neglect where outsiders see your pain and decide a certain amount of suffering is just mandatory, necessary even. Like endurance itself is proof. Oh, I'm leaving all these fucking bloopers in. Y'all get these free. Hold on. We gotta start again. Like endurance itself is proof of worth. And I realized I've been complicit in that silence too. I thought, surely, a spicy content creator shouldn't be the one to speak on these important things. I should definitely wait for someone bigger than me to step up. A politician smarter than me, with more money to make those changes happen. Or a YouTuber with a louder mic, a bigger platform than me to make people listen, you know? Someone prettier, younger, more capable. Just someone. And in all that waiting, I think we've all lost a lot of time. Because no one's coming with the magic fix. No one's coming to save us. It's us. It's always been us. I've noticed that I've been finding hope in people who can't help but to try. The ones who have that ache in their chest that says, even if it's small, I have to do something. Because that's how bridges get built. Each generation laying down its handful of boards, crossing gaps that shouldn't exist in the first place, so the ones after us might have an easier time. Not a harder time like we have now. We keep pulling the ladders up behind us and not sharing what we've got. The scarcity mindset is poisonous and keeps us small, keeps us quiet, keeps us afraid of stretching too big, because what if doing that makes us lose it all? Josh Johnson said recently that our politicians have gotten into telling us these stories. Us, their constituents. This story about how if you ask for what is owed to you, what is actually yours, then you're asking for handouts. But you've already paid for this stuff. And they keep trying to shame us into being comfortable with less, and unless, we are willing to abuse the system like they do. But it's like we can't get by unless we're willing to sell our souls and screw over our neighbors just to put food on the table. And yeah, I'm frustrated that it doesn't feel like enough people are doing things that really matter. But I also know that not everyone has the energy to fight all the time. That's kind of the point of why they're doing all this the way they are. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And, I mean, I don't have infinite energy to fight either. Definitely not. But doing nothing feels worse. So this right here is my small way of showing up. Okay, so I've dealt with food insecurity and housing insecurity my whole life. We moved so much, we lived in so many weird places with stranger folks, and sometimes I'd be getting by in 9th grade with a spare bit of cream cheese from a friend at lunch to stop my stomach from roaring at me for the rest of classes that day. I know what it's like to ration hope, and I know a lot of you guys do too. Especially those of us who grew up scraping by, who see society's exhausted empathy and safety nets just continuously fraying and wondering if the ground is about to give out again. I've been there. When my dad had his stroke and my mom was working part-time, I remember the fight it took just to prove we deserved help. CHIP, assistance programs, they don't save you. They just slow the free fall. We argued with insurance reps in the mornings. We were calling food pantries and doctors by noon, huddled up by the open oven to stay warm by evening. And when we weren't doing those things, we were constantly up at the hospital visiting my father. There was no time to be lazy, maybe emotionally paralyzed on something soft while disassociating in a panic. Sure, but definitely not lazy. And that's what, quote-unquote, living high on the hog looks like for most families that do need help. Just one accident away from collapse and still being told you're taking too much. That's the reality I come from. And it's why I can't stand watching this cycle repeat while people keep pretending it's rare until it happens to them. I also don't want to reach the end of my life knowing I knew something that could have helped someone survive and I didn't share it. That kind of silence feels like guilt, like complicity. And I won't carry that with me anymore. I was raised on Mr. Rogers, so I'm still looking for the helpers myself. And I guess with this, I'm trying to be one more publicly than just to my patrons, because, my God, it feels like all we've learned lately is how to judge each other, how to panic about being judged first. And that fear makes us so easy to exploit, even easier to divide. And I don't want that for us. I keep seeing how easy it is to let them normalize the cruelty. The way ICE is grabbing innocent folks, alligator Alcatraz, the way the courts have chipped away at medical debt protections and consumer relief, the way prices go up during big problems like COVID and the tariffs, and then companies keep the price point, ever chasing infinite gains in a finite reality. With so many things happening all the time, we're exhausted. It's hard to fight so many battles going on at once. It's so much easier to scroll past people's pain because it's too big to look at. Or because we're so busy trying to survive our own. But that's the trap, isn't it? That's how they keep us small, convincing us that our hearts are liabilities instead of maps. People who used to donate to food banks are now standing in line at them. Parents are skipping meals so their kids can eat. And folks who have never called themselves poor are suddenly doing math in the grocery aisle, trying to figure out what has to stay on the shelf this week. And it's not just food. It's rent, it's healthcare, it's exhaustion. It's the quiet, simmering dread that makes you look around your home and wonder how long you'll be able to keep it. When systems that were meant to protect us start unraveling like this, I get so sick of hearing, "Oh, I just don't care about politics." It's survival to care at this point. And somehow, we're still told that if we can't keep up, it's our fault, our laziness, our spending, our mindsets. But I know better. You know better. I mean, how many industries did they blame millennials and Gen Z for quote-unquote ruining, just because a few old power brokers refused to let go? Clinging to control through political donations and backroom deals, keeping their liver-spotted hands on the reins while the money keeps flowing their way. This isn't a moral failure of the people struggling. It's a systemic one, rooted in corporations that can spend billions lobbying for the rules they want, thanks to that Supreme Court ruling Citizens United that let corporations pour billions into elections through so-called independent expenditures. And that breaks my heart too, with how normal it's all starting to feel. How making do with less has become some kind of new virtue, while rest and care are treated like luxuries you don't deserve until you've supposedly made it. There's a difference between resilience and exhaustion. One rebuilds you. The other drains you until you forget that you ever had a choice to do anything else. I don't have the big answers. I just know that I can't stand by and stare at the chaos and say nothing anymore. If you've been feeling the same ache, the mix of fear, love, and stubborn hope, I'm right there with you. You're not alone in it. And so I've been looking for small ways to feel safer about food insecurity, as prices seem to fluctuate like crazy depending on the whims of crazy, traumatized, but powerful people. And I know we're moving out of the growing season now, but this is the perfect time to look around for local CSAs or farmers markets. Try to plan ahead for next year, or even find some of those winter programs. I was surprised that there were some for winter, so be sure to check. I signed up for a CSA this year, Community Supported Agriculture. It sounds fancy, but some of them are actually cheaper than the grocery store. And I ended up with so many veggies that we were able to can some for the winter. if you can get a canner and some cans, it's a great way to stock up. YouTube has lots of tutorials, and of course there's the canner recipe books too. And, some CSAs do take EBT. Some let you pay in installments instead of just one big sum. And a few even trade a few hours on the farm for produce. So, yeah, there's opportunities if you just know that you have places to look, you know? And this being my first year trying a CSA, it honestly felt pretty good to know where my food was coming from, to be able to visit the soil it grew from. I loved visiting every week, driving past the rows of corn, watching it rise and then come down again at the season's end, and getting to take some of that same corn home to can for winter. There was something deeply satisfying about that. About seeing the full circle happen with your own eyes. And it felt right to know that while I was feeding myself, I was also supporting people in my community. And then I started noticing the quiet generosity around me too. There's backyard chicken people selling eggs for a few bucks a dozen. Neighbors are putting baskets of apples by the road, $5 a pop plus 2 extra just for stopping in. And I read that someone had asked to actually put instant noodles in their local little free library, just so hungry families could find food as the government insists people starve until the government's reopened. And I guess that shit gets me real emotional because I know how hungry I was as a kid. Every little bit helps, you know? Especially when you're already working with scraps. I've heard that the food pantries are already stressed in some areas, but I've found there are apps too if your family's hungry. Maybe you could check those out. I've been using Too Good To Go. It's an app that rescues restaurant food at the end of the day. You can stock up sometimes and make meals stretch. Like sometimes you get a big block of protein and you can chop that up into some rice and maybe some cheap veggies go along with it to make it stretch a bit further. There's also Flash Food. They do it with grocery stores if you're lucky enough to have one nearby. We had one up here, and you could get, like, vegetables and meats that were about to have to be thrown away. Like, they're still good, but, like, you have to freeze them, like, immediately. You know what I mean? But you could get that stuff off of Flash Food for, like, 50% off or so. But they stopped doing it around here, which really sucks. I was getting bags of veggies for, like, $5 a pop. It's crazy. But like I said, while it was running, it was incredible. So I encourage you to check out if any stores are operating on those apps in your areas. There's also Olio, I think. I'm probably butchering that. I butcher everything. But it's where neighbors share extra food, though I hear that isn't as big in the States. So if you're someone who listens from outside the States, maybe you'll have better luck with Olio. But if none of those are in your area, there's still the old ways. There's Facebook Marketplace, Buy Nothing groups, and I've seen Next Door up here often has people in my area making sure that folks don't go hungry. Oh, and there's Craigslist too. Sometimes you might just find people looking to trade some garden extras or, they might have a little bit extra food. It's important to know where to look. And I guess that's why I'm making this, because back in the past I didn't know where to look, and so I did go hungry. But if someone tells you where to look, then maybe you don't have to suffer, you know? That's the logic anyway. Oh, and of course you can always eat your beans, potatoes, and rice, but I hope these little ideas help just bring a bit of variety if you're struggling. I mean, I know I got real tired of mashed potatoes as a kid for a long time. But, of course, none of this solves the whole problem. But still, every time someone eats because of something you shared, that's a win. That's us refusing to let despair have the last word, to let the oligarchy have the last word. Every meal saved, every neighbor fed, means we live to fight against the unfairness another day. That's the slow repair of something we were never meant to lose. Community. And that's what I'm learning. We don't need a movement made of heroes. We need 1,000 small hands quietly refusing to stop caring. The system teaches us to think everything is separate. The food, the work, the knowledge. They've taken what used to be shared survival skills and repackaged them into products we need to buy every time we need them. Instead of learning to take down a whole bird, we're handed plastic trays with 4 skinless pieces on it and told that's convenience, that it's worth the markup. They sell us the illusions of ease, but what they're really selling is dependence. It's wild, isn't it? I mean, there's food everywhere, growing wild, in neighbors' yards, in community gardens waiting to be tended. But most of us are too tired, too overworked, too disconnected to access any of it. And so we hand over more and more of our agency just to stay fed. And it's not our fault. That's how they keep the machine running. By making sure we forget we ever knew how to feed ourselves. But I don't want to forget. I want to know where my food comes, what it looked like before the packaging, and what it can become in my own hands. I started watching more practical cooking channels. It's this video on breaking down a whole chicken, and it honestly changed how we cook. One bird just becomes so many meals for a week. Broth, schmaltz, sandwiches, soup, crispy skins for flavor. It's wild how much nourishment is hiding inside what they tell us to throw away. After Thanksgiving, when the turkeys go on clearance, that's gonna be my moment, I think. I think I'll grab a couple, roast them, shred them, portion and freeze the meat, and then boil the bones into stock to can. And then later, I can cook some rice in that broth for even extra nutrition. And the house, it's gonna smell like a holiday for days. Oh, and then there are the scraps. I save those too for the stock to make the rice and stuff taste even better. I save the onion ends, garlic skins, carrot tops. I mean, whatever we've got. And they all go into a big bag for the stock later. Every peel has something to give. And we got a couple of sugar pumpkins and intend to pick up several more before the year is out. And even the pumpkin stringy pulp bit doesn't need to be thrown out. It can actually be dehydrated and turned into seasoning for licky mats for puppy enrichment time. And then I don't need to pay so much for those PetSmart seasoning blends anyway. I don't know. After being poor for so long in my life, I still enjoy pinching pennies and making things stretch, I guess. Every stock pot, every jar, every meal that stretches further than it should. It's proof that care still works. that small rituals of survival still carry magic. And that you, me, us, we still know how to turn their inflicted scarcity into sustenance anyway. And I keep thinking about how easy it is to feel alone right now. How the world just keeps trying to convince us that we are. That everything is individual, competitive, earned. That your worth depends on how well you're surviving the storm. But that's not the truth. It never was. There's a thread between us, between all of us, one made of care, stubbornness, and a shared hunger for betterment. And it doesn't break, no matter how much they try to make us forget it or scare it out of us. You can feel it in the smallest gestures. A neighbor mowing your lawn when you've had a tragedy strike your household. Someone dropping a few cans in a free pantry. Or just a stranger online reminding you that you're not crazy for feeling scared. That's the real safety net. That's the heartbeat that doesn't depend on systems or sponsors. Every time you share something useful, every time you check on a friend, every time you remind someone they still matter, you're mending the fabric the rich and powerful keep trying to tear apart. We can't fix everything, but we can feed each other with food and kindness. We can be the proof that care still works. And that's what I want us all to remember. We're not alone in this. We're part of a quiet rebellion that refuses to stop caring. If you've got something that's helped you, a resource, a story, a little trick for making life gentler, leave it below. Share it. Someone out there needs it. Because the world feels a little less cruel every time we reach toward each other. So that's what I've been wanting to say. I didn't plan for this to be heavy, but I think honesty always weighs a little. And I don't know if any of this fixes the world, but I know it helps me feel human again, feel a little safer, a little more connected. And maybe that's a start. If something here was useful, or you'd like more penny pinching ideas, if it gave you a new idea, or a reason to breathe a little easier, then let me know. And send this to someone who might need to feel a little less alone tonight. Add your own tips, your own small ways of pushing back. And that's how we'll build a map together. I'm not done talking about this. I'll keep showing up with what I find. Recipes, resources, reminders. Because we deserve to know there are still helpers out here. And if all I can be is a little light in the dark, that's enough. All right, I love you. Take care of yourself. And take care of those around you. And I'll see you guys in the next audio.